Um, I'm the Entrepreneur Officer at GBS in Leeds, and today I'm going to be talking about growing a business, and I'm going to refer to it as the processes of get, keep, grow, and referral as a strategy. Right, let's get into it. Before I start and talk about the concept of getting, this is taken from an extract of a business model canvas. And I'm going to be sharing about a business that I was part of. I was a director in, and it was in the construction industry. So as I go through each module of get, keep, grow, and referrals, I'm going to be looking at defining each concept and also explaining it as a strategy. But before I do that, I'll just briefly talk that I was part of a construction company that's still going today. I joined it back in 2003, and literally grassroots. We were a very small business initially, no more than a sole trader, and I was self-employed and doing sort of part-time work doing it, just to try and help get it off the ground. What the business was it was in construction, and it was a manufacturer of a construction product that we used within the bathroom industry. And it grew, like literally from grassroots. We used to manufacture from the shed at the bottom of a garden, and just had a small office off the kitchen. So it literally was from nothing that the business started. And then I eventually went full time in the post, and we moved from doing it in the shed to manufacturing from a small plant in St Albans in Hertfordshire, and then until eventually we were able to get a sizable building that took us up to 15,000 square foot up in a small place called a market town called Lake Buzzard, and we did full manufacture and had everything based on site. And literally as we went, we built offices, mezzanine, and created everything that we needed as we went. So we pretty much bootstrapped everything that we were doing. So now I'm going to focus on the first aspect, and this will take you up to any work that you've done in the background in terms of research, because that's the first thing you need to look at. Is once you've established that you're going to meet a need in the market and deal with a problem, and then you need to test it and have a look and establish whether there is possibility there, and whether there is an area for growth and to establish a business. Interestingly enough, I believe I went along to some local authority related businesses, like I think it was Winter in St Albans, to spend some time, and it was very helpful. But one of the discussions was looking at, whether this business could actually move forward, and I was pretty much told in no uncertain terms that no, it's not going to work for you. And then sure enough, 15 years later, I left the business because I wanted to move into another area. And it's still going strong to this day. So, people don't always get it right. So yeah, I'm moving on from the point of the business work in terms of referral. Research has been done, you've tested it, you've done some market research, and you've really kind of growing in confidence to think, right, okay, let's see what we can do to try and get it off the ground. So the first aspect of that growth is what I refer to as get. And if you're to define it, you'll be looking at how to educate customers about the benefits of what you have to offer. Secondly, how to convince them to buy. Looking at education, which will create credibility for you, and supported by what the papers are saying and from credible sources. And obviously the aspect that you need to keep showing up literally online in areas, and from a networking point of view, and then to back that up with an explanation. So why is this strategy the right one? Is it appropriate and persuasive for your customers? Is it effective? And is it tailored to your segment? So let's continue with Get. And the first aspect, a friend of mine set up in business at a similar time actually, and he was very creative. He designed his own website template, looked really good. But the one thing where he fell short, and it really did concern me, was he didn't focus on ringing the till. So you can look as wonderful and exactly how you'd want it to look and be online as a representation of who you are. However, if you're not prepared to, let's call it, get stuck in, then it's not going to work. And unfortunately, that's what happened to him. But in our case, my focus was, what do I need to do to get this business moving forward? As I said, I've done all the research. So the focus now was some activity to get things going. So I looked as a strategy of obviously making lots of calls. I mean, you're talking back in 2003. I had to make a significant amount of calls. I had to focus on making appointments, particularly at the time with local authorities, and I had to visit and make those appointments. And I did a lot of travelling around the UK, and I had to put together a presentation. I didn't have a lot of resources. I had like a pamphlet, more than a brochure really, and we worked from a wood-based product. So literally I had a very unattractive piece of ply that I was showing, and it was like a quarter section of it, and it didn't really show the features and benefits, not as nice as it could have been. And then I had to focus on lots of quotes and lots of follow-up, and create and continue to create that activity. And by doing that, even if you weren't getting sales to begin with, which they didn't come streaming in to begin with, as long as you had plenty of activity going on, then you knew sooner or later that opportunity would come your way, and sure enough it did. And before I knew it, there was opportunities, and slowly but surely that till started ringing, and I was dispatching, because I had to dispatch as well, dispatching goods, and obviously that's great, but I kept focusing on making sure that the following week and the following week and the following week, that there was a level of activity going on, and that there was opportunities to quote and do business. So, and that's an ongoing thing anyway. The other thing to look at was an ongoing commitment to, we used a very small PR company, and we based it on our affordability at the time, and literally it was our opportunity to use a PR company, a professional one, and they made themselves available one day a month, because that's pretty much all we could afford. But what they did target was key industry-led publications, both domestic and commercial, and that included things like the BBC Good Homes magazine, which we managed to get an editorial in, and lots of ongoing local authority based publications, and architects, surveyors publications. And I say she was a lady, and she knew exactly which ones to go in. She got a good understanding of what we were all about, and what she did from that was helped what I was trying to do and support what I was trying to do, which was to educate the market. And that was our big focus, yes, to get the till ringing, but also to make sure that we were educating the market on who we were, what we were capable of, and that we had the solution and the answers to that particular niche market. And it was very much niche as well. And that continued, that PR continued, and it's that opportunity to keep turning up. We were in small publications everywhere, and what it did generate was lots and lots of leads. And I found myself kind of spending time in the evening. We spent quite a bit of money on at the time, stamps and what have you, and we were posting out like hundreds and hundreds of leaflets, and that added to the activity. And then obviously from that, I had to make sure that I would data input and then look at ways and means of following up. I mean, there was one person trying to do that, and let's be honest, you're never going to achieve all of it, but you can have a good go at it, kind of thing. The other thing we looked at doing as well, which I think enhanced the activity that was going on from a sales perspective, the PR that was going on as well, is we looked at an online presence, because it was something we didn't even have at the time. And we set up a small website with 2 entrances into the website at the time. And we started an AdWord campaign with Google, which again totally enhanced what we were doing and allowed us to get the till ringing. However, it made it kind of I think that was the first big mistake we made, because it almost became a crutch for us, and we found ourselves growing and growing in terms of budget on a daily, weekly basis, and it ran away pretty quickly. And yes, the till was ringing and we were growing as a business, but it wasn't being monitored as well as it could have been. And I think the realization was that was the first big mistake, and we were very focused on it was all about Google, and that's not strictly true, because otherwise with all of that activity that was done initially, why bother, kind of thing. So that was a lesson learned. The other thing we looked at was distribution, and we had an amazing opportunity in 2004 to join forces with a specialist distributor, and they specialized high end in the bathroom industry. They had 12 salespeople, and the whole thing sounded absolutely amazing. Their facilities were incredible. So how can you not join forces with them? They were desperate to have a system like ours, and we jumped in completely 100%. And again, there was a massive lesson to be learnt there, because they might drive opportunity for you, but you weren't as high on the pecking order as you would have liked. You still had to spend a substantial amount of money promoting, and you also then had to get out on the road and spend a lot of time training staff, and then they'd leave and you'd have to retrain, and that's without going out to some of the retailers that they use. So there was a lot. It just added in terms of workload. But again, it was well worth doing, and it really helped us as a business to stabilise and get us to a level where it felt comfortable for us to kind of look at moving forward. Now, as an explanation, so I've defined as an explanation of GET. The question is, was that the right strategy? And some of it I said probably there was issues, but I believe it was the right strategy at the time, because yes, the till was ringing and that was the focus at the time. It's also right because there was plenty of ongoing activity and opportunities to do business, and what it did generate was the beginnings of a sales funnel for us, which I think anyone would be excited about, that there was business coming through that was a week, 2 weeks in advance. So that made it really attractive. Its effectiveness, the strategy has unearthed a number of problems, which I've shared some of them, and lessons learned. Therefore, I still agree it's working, and I wouldn't have changed it at the time, because why wouldn't you take that opportunity? But just make sure that you learn from them as well. And it helped us tailor our product range completely, and allowed us to look at what segments to target. So by partnering with distribution, and by looking particularly at Google Ads and the data that comes with it, it really allowed us to define and spend a bit of time and look at the areas which were important. So back then, our understanding of keywords wasn't particularly great, and it took us some time to establish what were the exact key words for us. So that's the concept of get. The next one I referred to as keep. The till's ringing. We're starting to build a platform. We're getting a little bit established. We've got like a foothold in the market. So now we've got to look at how do we keep going what's going on, and how do we maintain the level of business and keep the people around us, staff, the customers and everything else. So to define all of that under the banner of keep is contact. And by that I mean focusing on a strategic touch points throughout my association with potential clients and influencers, and that was done by calling, by emailing, by subscribing, by inviting. So that's an ongoing basis, and that allowed you to, and it gave you the opportunity to touch base with so many people on different levels, not just by calling, because you can become ineffective after a while, but by making sure that there was regular emails going out and there was opportunities for people to subscribe and sign up to some publications or interest that we had going on. And by inviting them, because we were under the umbrella of a distributor, they held events, they had showrooms in London, and access to retailers, and it allowed us to host small events and just gain some interest that way as well. The other thing that I believe allowed us to define and keep customers was a help desk. We had a help desk, and it made us nice and accessible. That help desk can unearth so many questions and concerns that people have. So we, with such a broad range of people, like DIY people, professional builders, installers, niche market installers, self-builders, architects, designers, surveyors, house builders. It was quite incredible, really. And that help desk really gave us some great insight as to what people wanted to know, what questions they had, and one of the big concerns, because that was our focus, which was education, was the big focus was that people were concerned and they were so nervous about, I haven't mentioned the word, but wet room. We were in the wet room market, and so many people get so nervous because of obviously leaks and what have you anyway. The other thing we looked at as well to help us keep our share of what we were doing was by the training and the ongoing training, by committing to training, by committing to it being ongoing, and to look at distributors, retailer, well, I say distributor, and lots of retailers, and sales staff as we were starting to grow the business, both internal and external. The other thing we put in place was a guarantee of our product by offering a lifetime guarantee. And that was our way of alleviating and taking away any fear or concerns that people had about purchasing. And the other thing, finally, was the network aspect of us focusing on building a network of experienced installers that weren't necessarily approved by us, because we didn't like to do that. But over time, that trust grew, and it allowed us the opportunity to find key players in certain areas of London, in the south and the north as well, and put them in touch. And they loved it, which brought more business to us. And it was a win-win, really, for everyone. So to justify and explain that concept I have of keep, was it the right strategy that we were using by looking at the contact, the help desk, the training, the guarantee and the network? I believe it was the right strategy, because what it did do was it unearthed a whole host of experienced installers, and they were coming back to us on a regular basis, and those touch points were increasing on a daily, weekly basis. So yes, I agree. I believe it was right. Was it tailored to the customer or to us? It was, I believe it's tailored because the products meet the needs of the installers, because it must have done, because people kept coming back regularly, and that confidence was building in the market from us towards the end users. I believe also it was very engaging as opportunities were being created. And we were finding these, what I would refer to as entrepreneurial builders, realizing that there was a great opportunity for them to be past regular sales opportunities. And it allowed us as well to keep them up to date with new flooring solutions, because like Alexa, we were listening. Right, next part is growing. Like all businesses need to grow, of course, you can't remain static. Grow, and let's look at the defining aspect of it. And that is by learning from your mistakes as well. So from our growth part, we looked at sectors, and we realized that by targeting it and expanding our market, we could then look at areas like DIY, residential, self-build, care homes, hospitality, healthcare, student accommodation, modular, and from that as well was prisons, a whole host of prisons, and we had the opportunity to piece together an approved anti-ligature trap system, which really gave us a niche share of the market because there was no one else doing it at the time. Enhanced our product range. It allowed us to introduce an ongoing range of complementary products that we were now focusing on, and I believe it was starting to make us what I'd refer to as a one-stop shop in the wet room market, with waterproofing membrane, traps, gratings, enclosures, and also what we did and what we did best was floor systems, and it allowed us to reinvest our finances and resources and add new finished floor systems to our collection. So it gave us an opportunity to be more assumptive in our approach, and when I say that, we could be more assumptive because we could then put ourselves in a scenario where we were not focusing on what the competition had to offer, but we were then saying, do you want that one or do you want that one? And it seemed to be working. The other thing is key players. We were gathering opportunities to, one, be a key player in the market, which obviously does take time. But we found ourselves having the opportunity to partner with key players, which was without a doubt creating more opportunities to do business and adding to our credibility. And finally, networking. We were spending time with influencers and connectors in the industry, and it was allowing us to grow a brand, which is maybe what the PR company we were dealing with was doing from the beginning, but we didn't quite get it. But yeah, definitely that was working. So as an explanation of that targeted area of growth, I believe it was the right strategy, because the increasing sector now defined us as a want and a need business, making us, dare I say it, recession proof, because the reason we ended up, without even realizing it, as a want and need business, we had two aspects of the business. We had what we referred to as the care aspect, where we had a floor system that was specifically DDA approved and suitable for people that were less abled. And then we had this conscious aesthetic looking floor system that could be tiled over, covered in rubber, covered in micro cement, and that, you name it, it could be done, and it became incredibly successful. So, and if one arm of the business started slowing down, the other arm started to speed up. So it made us almost recession proof. The continued growth also allowed us to reinvest in staffing levels, in our infrastructure, and that continued new and enhanced product range. The strategy to cross-sell and upsell was a win-win for the business, making us more assumptive, as I said earlier, and more of an easy sell, supported by strong, believable branding and stunning visuals. And that can only come from the simple fact that education was being drip-fed throughout, and that branding of us, of who we were the good guys, we could answer your needs, and we had a solution, and we were reliable, and we offered really good service. So we never pushed out for volume. We always pushed out for quality, and we weren't afraid of making money as well. And it's engaging as opportunities are there for entrepreneurial builders to be passed, regular sales opportunities. I believe I shared that earlier. But that it allowed us to keep them up to date with our new floor solutions, which we were listening to from them, and from obviously in industry leaders as well. So all in all, successful. Still lots of lessons to be learned and mistakes made, but we were growing. And finally, the aspect of referrals. Referrals are a great way of having free marketing, and I believe that is best as well. The first aspect I put for, if we're defining when we talk about referrals, was a cause. And the reason I say that is that I believe that if you're selling yourself as like you've got this mission that you're on and that you're trying to achieve, and people they'll want to buy into that. Do you know what I mean? Like if people can see where you're trying to take something, and that includes staff, but that also includes customers, they'll want to get involved and they'll want to help. We were out to educate and help transform the bathroom sector, and convert builders and architects, surveyors, specifiers. And in doing that, word of mouth was spreading like wildfire, and more people were realizing that, we had a floor system that was available on an off the shelf on a next working day basis, and it truly did happen on a next working day basis. But also we had a bespoke service that could be made available within 5 to 7 working days. And they got it in 5 to 7 working days. And if you wanted to talk to us, the good guys, you could actually call us and we would pick up the phone and we would talk to you as well. It just worked. Case studies and testimonies is something we heavily focused on, and they without doubt were an opportunity to share and talk about the credibility of who we were and what we were trying to do. And that's without the need for people to keep up with the Joneses, because people do want to keep up, so if someone's bought a magnificent wet room that they're going to have installed, and some of them truly were magnificent as well, the first thing that's going to happen is friends and neighbours are going to see it, and they're going to want it, and we had business growth from that. Another referral aspect are touch points, and us spending time discussing completed installations, adding visuals to portfolios, and discussing opportunities, incentives for referrals as well. And we also looked at supporting our point of sale material by making available value added point of sale material and making it easier as an approach for referrals, especially for builders and installers. So we come up with ideas where, back in the beginning I said about having a rather unattractive piece of ply, and then we looked at having a handheld product that was mounted on a frame, and completely tiled over some of it, and it, or part tiled shall I say, and it looked really fab, and it allowed people to see the complete floor makeup. And networking is always a great way of looking at referrals, by spending time with influencers and connectors in the industry, and it did create some great opportunities for us. Now finally, as an explanation of those referrals, again, the questions raised: is it the right strategy? Um, and I believe it was, because we did perform well with our sales and growth, and we had some good processes which we learned in place as well and continue to grow from. And we always were very focused on our customer service and follow up, and that gave us continued growth in that key area of the referral market. Um, and people became invested in us and they wanted to help, as I said earlier. It was also effective because we never focused it. We never focused ever on discounts, because I believe that it diluted us as a brand. Um, and instead, we continue to invest our time and enhance our point of sale material, um, along with making us easily accessible. Um, and all in all, what that allowed for was a successful business relationship. So that's my take on all of it. I hope that you found this of interest, um, because I think that get, keep, grow referral is no more than a great marketing strategy for you to get an SME off the ground in whatever industry you're looking. Um, do your research. Didn't focus on that, but do your research first and test it. Um, but then get into it, get that till ringing. Then look at ways of keeping what you have as a platform, and then you can focus on growing and moving forward, and then you can enhance the whole thing with those referrals, by just building gradually that whole access point that you have of customers, staff, retailers, and it makes for a very exciting time in business. So I hope it's been of value to you, and yeah, hope to see you again. Many thanks.